Per 9000's Game Room.
Okay, the SNES game I'm reviewing today is Shadowhawk. It was an unreleased game made by a developer called Studio E, who couldn't find a publisher, probably because it was quite late in the SNES's lifespan. It was a platform beat-em-up game, and apparently it was mostly complete when it was shelved, and it was shelved due to a lack of publisher. Now, the interesting or strange thing about it is that Shadowhawk is based on a comic by Image Comics, made by a creator called Jim Valentino, who apparently put up the money for the studio to make this game. For those that haven't heard, Shadowhawk, he's an anti-hero who goes on a vendetta against crime after getting attacked and being infected with HIV. Yes, this is a really weird superhero, and he comes from the 90s, which I think you can tell from that. The guy basically has a thing about breaking people's backs. Quite violent. It really feels like probably it's a game that would have been better suited on the Mega Drive. For years this game kind of went unknown about until a prototype was unearthed. The main part of each level was to be a 2D side-scrolling platformer with jumping in it, where you'd utilise your throwing star type weapons to attack, your grappling hook to climb, and a special move where you could jump over your enemies and bust their spines. Yeah, sounds quite family, doesn't it? The game prototype was not dumped to the internet till 2007, and apparently some copies of it that are out there have had a little bit of work done on them. At one point the game fell into the hands of a bootleg maker called Rose Coloured Gaming. They did a run of 100 copies of this bootleg version, but Jim Valentino, the comic book's author, threatened them with legal action. Apparently 36 bootlegs were sold before this happened. I, of course, am not playing this off a bootleg. I am instead playing a ROM image that I found off the internet and used an EverDrive to play. There is wonderings whether, with the violence in this and talk of breaking backs and the whole HIV thing, whether Nintendo would have actually allowed a game like this to get their seal of approval. Sure, we might have had Mortal Kombat 2 with blood on the SNES, but deadly diseases that, to be honest, have had some stigma about them. Not the kind of thing you can see the big N stamping their seal of approval on back then. So, what do I think of the game? The game actually reminds me of Batman Forever. Yeah, that turd. It's not a good game. The way you move around fast, and it looks a lot better watching it than it does playing it. I honestly could not stand playing this. When I was playing it to review it, I just felt like I was flipping all over the place, and like no matter what I did, I was going to get hurt by things because too many things would cluster you on the screen. And it just felt like a war of attrition. It wasn't trying to not take damage, it was trying to just not take enough to die and just keep pushing on forward. It was never really that straightforward where you were going either. So you grapple up, walk along a bit, smack some people, come down a bit and think, where now? And there was often times that I'd literally die by dropping off something from not knowing what I should or shouldn't drop off. It was an absolute chore to play. And I don't think the graphics are particularly good for a SNES game from this sort of time. It's not hard to see why a publisher wouldn't want to pick this up. You've got the adult nature of it, and the fact that the hero is quite a, shall we say, cult hero. The graphics for the time weren't anything to scream about, not when we'd had stuff like Donkey Kong Country, and it's too late in the machine's lifespan. I just cannot see how anyone would have seen this as anything but a massive gamble. If I was trying to say things I like about this game, well, I do think the music has quite a good beat to it. And it's not anything that you're going to remember after you finish playing, but it's not an ear-bleeding pain either. It's quite nice and probably the thing I enjoyed the most. But no, I found this a twitchy mess of a game, and I really don't think anything was lost by this not coming to market. Despite the fact that apparently this ROM is playable to the end, I did not have anywhere near the patience to find that out. Although the further you get through the game you will notice graphical glitches, plenty of things that obscure your view, even more worse non-obvious places where you're supposed to go. and the enemies just tend to get more and more relentless, and it doesn't make it feel challenging, it just makes it feel like a chore. It's hard to know exactly what you've got in this prototype ROM drop though, because there's been all sorts of stories about copies of this game not having any sound, others the sound only coming through one channel, different things on startup splash screens. So, you know, I'm only reviewing the ROM I have hold of. But unless there's a ROM out there where somebody's hacked and magic make the game good code, I just don't see this as being anything. In all honesty, I think this game got more credit and whispers and attention as an unreleased prototype than it would have got if it was released. It is mediocre in the extreme, and yeah, I'd recommend you download and try it, because it's always interesting to try a new SNES game that you've never had access to. But I'm sure you'll drop it quicker than anything. There's much better games on the system, much better things to spend your time with. Okay, that's Kerr9000 signing off. Keep on gaming.